Mike's Daily Podcast.
My name is Mike Matthews. Welcome to episode 1606. 1606. I am your host. We are taking you into Café Anyway is where we are right now. The last place on earth located somewhere in Podcastro Valley, Mont. The last show is called Duck because I think the word duck is hilarious in so many ways and it fit. So today we'll have some people.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Madame Rootabega, Valentino, Bison Bentley. I think Barbara Bush died. We were talking about her yesterday.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I don't know. I just woke up 5 minutes ago and I am doing this show and I think it's something that you need to go, hey! I wish I was a cheerleader for the New Orleans Saints because they have people there that are full of hate and they're mad at the young cheerleaders because
Mike's Daily Podcast.
They post a picture of themselves in a bodysuit on Instagram, flexing their muscles. What happens to
Mike's
those young ladies
Daily
who want to become
Podcast
cheerleaders and they have this dream? They grow up with this. They grow up with a dream, and then they get to the actual team. And oh my gosh, they don't even make minimum wage. Oh my gosh, they gotta sell calendars. They gotta walk out there in their suits where they got they're in practically nothing, selling calendars. And when they come back with calendars that they haven't sold, they can't cheer. They're like, nope, you don't get to cheer because you didn't sell all your calendars. And other crazy things that I learned when I listened to the New Yorker podcast, or the New York Times podcast, which is called The Daily. Look who walked in. Hello, Michael Master. It's Madame Rootabega. I used to be a cheerleader. I was very good. I bet you just made the crowds cheer for you constantly. Yes, Michael Master, because I was so athletic and I jumped up high in the air and I said, go team. That's great. Look who else walked in.
Hello there, Mike. This is Valentino, the parking attendant.
And this is Bison Bentley. Do you know that?
Mike, we enjoy the cheerleaders. They need to be paid as much as the players,
Yeah, the players. Do you know that? Yeah, well, they're
And here's today's podcast picture.
It almost sounds like the cheerleaders go through worse than the actual players do that are on the field that get the crap beat out of them. That, smack into each other and they make this noise. The podcast picture today, that's a very good question. So yesterday, I enjoyed the wonderful company of my friend Kevin, who used to do this segment.
Addenda with Kevin.
And we haven't done that segment in a long time because I would record him in public, usually. Now seems to be the case. We used to do it actually in the work we were at because we were working together at a radio station. But lately, I would have to actually record him. But whenever we do it, we're always in a very loud area, and there's a lot of noise and distractions, and I can't get a good interview. And then I got to chop it all up when I come in, and I have no time. No time. I literally am a millennial, and I'm literally going to say literally all the time.
Right? Good.
Because I love to be a millennial, and I'm literally not a millennial, because I was born in 68, and that makes me not a millennial. That makes me a last person on the team, baby boomer, and one of the first of the Gen Xers. I'm on the cusp, and I've always been on the cusp my whole life. My birthday's on the cusp, November 22nd. I'm right between Sagittarius and Scorpio. Scorpio comes first. No, Sagittarius comes first. Whatever, I'm not astrological in any way or form. I did date an astrological girl that I met at a coffee shop, a coffee house. She was a barista back in the 90s, and she was so into astrology, she used to get Reiki done, where someone stands next to you and puts their hands on you, or it's a very suspect. But from what she described, back in the 90s, this was long ago, and she'd be, yeah, and she would move my aura around. And I'd be, oh, that's good. Moving that aura is great. And your aura is a little potent. Maybe you should take a bath. She put patchouli oil on herself constantly. Lots of patchouli oil. And her name was Julie. So Patchouli Julie is what she was. And I hope she's doing well. I haven't talked to her in eons. So the point of it is, I don't know what I am. I know I am on the cusp of both astrology and in the generations. The point being is I had a great time with Kevin, who does Addendum with Kevin, and he and I were discussing the podcast. Actually, we talked a lot about the show. He listens a lot. He works at 21st Amendment. I'm just going to give you a free plug, Kevin. 21st Amendment. Fantastic beer. Bar none. Best. And you know what? What's awesome is it's in the Bay Area. You can go to their factory, and Kevin will probably serve you and say, hey, Kevin. And he'll say, hey, back. He's probably the nicest guy you'll ever meet. But this is turning into a plug for 21st Amendment. But no, I will talk about our hilarious conversation. Kevin and I now Kevin is a very young man, and he has some funny thoughts about NPR. I've often railed against NPR. I've had some issues. I love NPR. I once gave money to NPR back in the 90s, probably when I was dating the patchouli girl. That's what happens when you're dating a patchouli girl, is you want to give money to NPR. And I did that at that time, and I listened to it because there's the people, they get into some interesting conversations, but sometimes you're, oh, wait, what? They are completely leaving something out. What is going on here? And how come everybody on this channel sounds like they just got out of college? But the point is, Kevin and I had a long discussion about all these things, and beer, and coworkers that we used to work with, and there is absolutely not. I've posted. I'm sorry. I'm having a moment. A lapse is what I'm having. A lapse of knowledge. A lapse of what? I can't find any pictures. Do you ever have one of those days you look at everything you have and you go like, wow, this is everything I have. This is all that I got. And that's how I'm feeling right now looking at the podcast pictures today. Is I've posted all these pictures before. You've seen these. But nothing is jumping out at me. Maybe I should just be a blank. Because that's how I feel. I feel very blank today. Or maybe I'm on the cusp of something big. Of something extraordinary. Tax day was yesterday, and I missed out that Sonic had a burger for half price at Sonic. Sonic is that place that has the wonderful commercials with the comedians making funny jokes about how they're eating fast food and dying. And the Sonic is also a place where it's somewhere in the middle of Hayward and Union City. And it just... their shakes are pretty amazing. And getting a half-price burger was just not on the plan yesterday. But eating a delicious burger with... I do not understand. This is something else Kevin and I discussed. I take the lid off this burger at this place we went to in Hayward. And it's a brewery, and I'm not going to give him a free plug. I only give Kevin's brewery a free plug. But I take the lid off the burger, the upper bread, and there's sitting on top of the burger meat is a roasted jalapeno, huge jalapeno, and next to it, a gigantic slice of cheese. It was, what was the cheese? It wasn't cheddar. It was something more robust. Was it a Munster? It wasn't a provolone, because that's usually thin. It was a huge chunk. And it was slightly melted. And I'm like, this looks weird. It's like it's not even constructed. It's like they just kind of threw some things on there and said, it's done. Pay your $16. You can't get a burger for cheaper than $16 now anymore in the Bay Area anyway. And weren't these things like the cheap meat? This is the cheap creation of... you get the cheapest part, right? But no. So, it was delicious. The podcast picture today, I've decided we're going to Benicia and Basil running on the wonderful shoreline of downtown Benicia. Something else happened yesterday. I had a long discussion with my ex-brother-in-law. I hadn't spoken to him on the phone since he got married back in October. He's been busy. He travels a lot in his job. And it was so great getting caught up with him and discussing things like, he just got married and he's not going to have kids. He's like, I've decided I will not have kids. We will freeze our sperm and eggs, and that would be a horrible name for a restaurant. And we're going to keep that on the side in case we decide maybe someday to have kids. So that might be the route a lot more of the younger people are going to be doing. We'll see. But that's his decision, and I can't wait to see him. It's been a long time. A lot of time has gone by. Finally, I would like to tell you that there's someone that I work with who uses the F word way too much. He F-bombs constantly. And it seems like if you're going to use the F-bomb, you should use it sparingly. Because if you use it all the time, it's punctuation. As whatever, using your F-bombs, people just get too... It loses its potential. There's not... It's like, oh yeah, just another F-bomb, another explosion. Who cares? So he uses it when he's happy, and he uses it when he's mad. So that's when you really need it, is when you're mad, right? When you need to get that out. That passion needs to come flying out of your mouth in a big F-bomb. Well, it means nothing. He texted me he was mad at something at work, and he texted me with an F-bomb in it. And I'm like, okay, it's just another day. It's just another day. As we go outside of Café Anyway, where we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcaster Valley, I feel like I've gotten a little bit through my blankness. But I'm still really concerned about the cheerleaders. I'm still really concerned about how they work so hard. It's very much like radio. It's very much like you get into it thinking, ooh, I'm going to play music, and I'm going to be... Oh.
I tried not to cry in front of my mom because I didn't... she was still employed by the Saints at this point, and
Oh, by the way, the cheerleaders for the Saints are called the Saints-sations. Doesn't that just roll off the tongue? But, so this cheerleader posted a picture of herself on Instagram.
No, if you would have told me a year ago that this is how it was going to end, I wouldn't believe you.
They fired her. They said, you can't talk to... Oh, they're not supposed to talk to the football players. If a football player follows them on Facebook, they got to block them. They can't... they're not supposed to date them, obviously. And any hint that they're at a party where they are or anything, they can get fired instantly. And so when they're trying out, this guy comes over and grabs her belly and says, you got to make this disappear. Like, they're mean as crap, the Saints. I'm not watching football anymore. Oh, wait a minute, I don't watch football. So I guess that will be an easy resolution to jump into.
I'm like this, right? They made me feel like a slut, if we're being honest.
Okay, if we're being honest, that's how the Saints make you feel, and that's not good. So there was a secret meeting. CIA Director Mike Pompeo met Kim Jong Un, the leader of North Korea, over Easter weekend. Did you know this? As we wrap up the show? Because I don't have much time. Apparently they met Mike Pompeo, who is going to become our new something, to replace that other guy. Made a top secret visit to North Korea over Easter weekend as an envoy for President Trump to meet with that country's leader. According to two people with direct knowledge of the trip, the extraordinary meeting between one of Trump's most trusted emissaries and the authoritarian head of a rogue state was part of an effort to lay the groundwork for direct talks between Trump and Kim about North Korea's nuclear weapons program. The clandestine mission, which has not previously been reported, came soon after Pompeo was nominated to be Secretary of State. There we go. This according to Fox News. Interesting. And then, yeah, I had heard something that they're working towards a resolution to the Korean War. Decades after it supposedly ended, North Korea and South Korea are going to finally agree on that being ended. And yeah, there's all kinds of other things happening in that. It's amazing what happens in a year. Remember, there was all the saber rattling a year ago and more recently, but the CNN saying that this meeting is maybe something that Trump may not want. Barbara Bush was 92 when she passed away. A rift erupts between Nikki Haley. I'm a huge fan of Nikki Haley. I think she rocks. I think she's amazing. She was a governor, right? And now she's our whatever to the UN. She's always at the UN saying, "No, this was bad. What that country did." President Trump was watching television on Sunday when he saw Nikki Haley, his ambassador to the United Nations. She's an ambassador. Announced that he would impose fresh sanctions on Russia. The president grew angry. As far as he was concerned, he had decided no such thing. This according to the New York Times. It was not the first time Trump has yelled at the television over something he saw Haley say. This time, however, the divergence has spilled into public in a remarkable display of discord that stems not just from competing views of Russia, but from larger questions of political ambition, jealousy, resentment, and loyalty. I would vote for her for president. She seems like she shoots straight from the hip. Bam! And, and she doesn't overuse F-bombs. I would like to sum up the show by saying the words duck, because somebody said to me yesterday, hey, I can imagine someone using a duck to try and open up a bottle of wine. And that person would probably be some kind of a redneck. And that's the end of the show. Thank you so much for listening. A little bit jarring, I know. We were on the cusp of something good and it didn't happen. And I think I'll stop with using that word. But next show we'll have the wonderful Chely Shoehart, Floyd the Floorman, and John Deere the engineer.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye.